tankers, welcome back to another one of my videos. I am Blitz, and today I'm going to be talking about the Gravedigger, which has just hit the stores in crates, as well with the Tankenstein for only a 6% drop chance. Now, as always, I'm going to be talking about the tank, my opinion on it, where to run it, how to run it, and whether it is worth it to try and gamble some of your money to pick up this tank in a 6% drop chance. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say I really don't like the Gravedigger that much. I watched Meatsy's video on it, and I really completely agree with him. It's not a spectacular tank. It is okay when you're playing tier 7s, but you're going to play tier 8s as well. And, when you first get this tank, you get a little bit honey-coated because, you think, wow, I'm doing so good, I'm only playing tier 7s, I'm just completely decimating and winning every battle. And that's because this tank is spectacular at fighting tier 7s and 6s. When you do fight, in the average tier 7 match like this one, you're going to be very, very easily just winning battles because it can penetrate tier 7s very easily, it can push on them, bounce their shells relatively easily, and because of that, it is pretty good at winning tier 7 matches. 9 times out of 10, I can pretty much win any tier 7 match I'm thrown into. However, as you guys know, about 50-60% of the matches you do play in Tier 7, you get stuck up with Tier 8s. And that is really the big downfall for the Gravedigger, in my opinion, is you get thrown into these Tier 8 matches that really ruin the tank for me, because you just can't penetrate them. Now, you do have 240 millimeters of penetration with the APCR. However, first of all, it brings your average damage in the entire clip down to 440. Which is not that impressive, judging that, tier 8s are literally going to be doing around an average of 400 damage to you, and you have to pen all 6 of your shots. Which means that, let's say a T-34 pulls out on you, shoots you and backs up, you might get 2-3 shells in him, so you're going to be taking off, 200 damage, and he's taking 400 off you, because his 250 mil of pen is not going to have a hard time penning you. And then when you start to get into tanks like IS-3s, you're going to have a very, very tough time penetrating through their tracks. And not to mention, they can just snap you, back up. You might only get 1 shell into them, and they're going to be doing 400 damage in return. And really, that's what kills the tank for me, is you just cannot fight in tier 8 matches. You can see we did great in this game, 2,600 damage, 61,000 credits. But this was literally the most damage I could pull out in this tank out of the 10-15 games I played in it, which was really just quite frustrating for me. I just can't do well in this tank, especially when you play in tier 8 matches. Now, one good thing about the tank is that the armor is pretty good. The upper plate of the tank is pretty much completely impenetrable, as it's going to auto-ricochet everything. However, that's really the only good part of the armor. The tracks are pretty good, however, you still can snap that front track wheel. And really, that's about it, because the lower plate on the tank is only about 160 millimeters thick, and the cheeks of the turret where those 2 little stubs are sticking out, only about 180, which pretty much means any tier 7 is going to penetrate it as long as they load their premium. Not to mention, you can see that cupola sticking on the top of the tank there. That's only about 60-70 millimeters thick, which is not thick at all. Now, you can see the gun on the tank is pretty good if you can get all of your shots to penetrate. 550 damage there. That's about the average damage each clip does, and it only takes 10 seconds to pull out that damage once you get it ready. And that's not bad at all. But you can see that tank's only 150 meters away, and we only pen 2 of our shots now. And that's because the penetration is pretty good on the tank with the APCR. However, you're not going to be hitting anything past 150 meters. It's just such bad accuracy. Now, the first shell isn't bad at all, but the tank looks like it has really good dispersion on paper. You look at it, I think it's 0.302. It's really not that bad looking. However, you take a look at the hidden statistics on Blitzhanger, and it's got awful gun dispersion while firing. And the thing is really bad because as soon as you start firing, look how big that aiming circle gets. You can't hit anything. I have to wait for it to aim in, which then is lowering my damage per minute. And you can see we still only penetrated 2-3 shells on that guy. This whole game we've only picked up 1,300 damage. If I was in a Lycan or anything else, I could have just easily popped out, snapped my shell, backed up. Popped out, snapped it, backed up. You can't do that in this tank. You have to constantly be in the open. And one thing about this tank is it's huge. It's probably the biggest tank at tier 7. And because of that, you're never, ever hidden. Your camouflage is just completely awful. And pretty much there's always something on your tank showing when you pull out. You can see there that Tiger P snapped me right through the turret, and I couldn't even see him just because this tank's turret is that large. And you can see that it does have a good gun when you are shooting at people up close. It's just that if that was any other tank, like let's say a KV-4, I would have had to load my premium, and by then I'm probably only penning, 4 or 3 of all my shells, even with the premium. And as I'm taking all that time aiming my shells, loading them on him, he's just easily going to tap us one after another right into our tank, and it's really just not a great trade-off. And I really think that's the killer of the tank, and not to mention it only has 5 degrees of gun depression. And for a tank that you can see is ginormous when you compare it to the size of like a Lycan, when you only have 5 degrees of gun depression, it is very, very hard to be able to shoot people that are low down. Like an E25, if that thing's face-hugging you, you literally cannot aim down at it. And that's one of the huge disappointments of the tank, is just that it has such bad gun depression. You can see it has potential to have great gun depression. The gun could easily aim very, very far down. But unfortunately, it really can't do its job that well. And because of that, I just don't think it's really even worth it to spend 1 cent trying to gamble on this tank. And that's the same for the Tankenstein. However, I do like the Tankenstein. That's a little bit of a different story. But really, yeah, I don't think it's worth it in crates, especially for only a 6% drop chance. That is awful. And the tank, as I said, it's not bad, but it's definitely by no means good. You're not going to be carrying any games in this tank unless you're playing up against like 5 tier 6s. Tier 7s are going to be penning you, 50, 60% of the time. And tier 8s, I wouldn't even bother trying to bounce shells by then. Just try and pick out the mediums that you can easily take out, because you're just not going to be doing anything well in the battle. But other than that, guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. As always, make sure to hit that like button if you did enjoy it. If you didn't, hit me up with a downvote. Let me know why you didn't in the comments down below. Other than that, guys, make sure to smash that like button. Smash the subscribe button. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one.